Welcome to Tombstone Tuesdays, everybody. This is a weekly streaming show about cemeteries and the people who enjoy exploring them. Now, in case you're new here, I am Tui Snider. I write books, I give talks, and I do a lot of research. I also create videos that I share here on my YouTube channel. And in case you missed it, I had a couple recently that you might want to check out. The playlist you're looking at right now is for my live show, Tombstone Tuesdays, but I have another one where I share forgotten history, offbeat history. This one which I recently did, is about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, which was an important moment for both men and women. And it's the reason, a big reason why we get things like weekends and we don't have to work 12 hours a day and we get breaks when we work. So really important history for everyone to learn, even though very tragic. I do kind of start to cry a little at one point, but I get back together after that. On a lighter note, I have another video about the Alamo cat graves down at the Alamo and feline defenders that they have down there. Now, today's guest, oh, pardon me as I cough, sorry. Our guest today is going to be, oh my goodness, I swallowed wrong just a second here. Oh, I tried to mute and of course it didn't work. It's so funny. Mitch and I were we were playing around with the mute function earlier and I didn't realize I was going to need it so much. But I wore this pin today. I wore this one. It says, I'm a morning person. This is one of my afternoon tea league pins. I really love this one because I am a sucker for a good pun. I think they are good. And I do have a few announcements before I bring Mitch in. I just want to see who's here. I see we've got some comments already. Who is here? Howdy, Nicole. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. Green Man, you showed up again. Whoop, whoop. Glad. Nice to see you. Just you two? Well, I don't know. It says there's 5 people in here. Maybe somebody's shy. You never know. And who do we have here? Hey, afternoon. Hi, it's still snowing in Colorado, huh? I'm wearing, as you probably heard, I'm wearing the morning person pin today. Are you seeing any moose today out there in the snow? Maybe they're staying out of the snow. Still can't get over the fact that there are moose. I always want to say meese for plural. Well, all right. So I do have a couple more announcements before we dig into the show too far here. I want to tell you about next week's guest. It's going to be Denise from the Colorado Martini Channel. She and her partner, they travel all over and they post the nicest, the most interesting videos. They have articles, they have a great website. She likes all sorts of things like, she likes graveyards and weird history and paranormal and just wild and wacky stuff. And as you can see by the smile on her face, she is a fun, loving gal. Oh, we got some more people here. Hey, Francisca, thanks for coming. Howdy, Debbie. Nice to see you as well. Oh, I think we got a newbie here. I didn't see you there. Michelle, well, nice to meet you as well, Michelle. I wonder where you are. I know where some of these other people are from. I know we've got people from Holland and Canada, Oregon, I think. Hi, Wade. All right, now the show can begin. Wade's here, everybody. All right, now we can start for real. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for showing up. Okay, so, last week I was talking about how I rebranded my channel, so I'm not just talking, I never was just doing cemeteries, but I thought that I was supposed to, and I'm just so done with doing what I'm supposed to do. So, now I'm just going to do what I want to do and whatever. So yeah, I changed it to Offbeat and Overlooked. And I do have my Tombstone Tuesdays channel, which is primarily focused on historic cemeteries, as I said. I'm also going to be doing occasional Thursday shows. I'm not sure how often. These are going to be later at night. And my first one is on April Fool's Day. It's going to be an Offbeat and Overlooked one. I'm super excited about it. My guest is going to be Greg Bishop. He is a real UFO expert, really knows a lot about high strangeness. But we're going to talk about just goofy stuff because he's very playful and he also loves weird music. So our chat is going to run the gamut. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're getting some more comments, everybody. What? Oh, we got some birthday people in here? Happy birthday, Wayside Wade. Happy birthday to you. And thanks for showing up, M.M. Ward. Now someone else has a birthday. Who's the other birthday person? I'm missing it. I know Wade. Wow, it's my birthday. Oh, you're in Texas as well. Ah, another Texan. We got Texas in the house. This is great. Well, happy birthday, Wayside Wade, and nice to meet you too, Michelle. I mean, I think this is so fun. We got a nice little crowd happening here. I love it. Now, while I've got you, I do want to mention, as I do each week, I want to ask, have you signed up for my Sunday newsletter yet? If not, why not? When you sign up, you get a free booklet explaining the many meanings of hands in historic cemeteries. That's a good starting place when you're learning the symbols in cemeteries. Each of those hands you see in this picture here, if I can do it here, these all mean something different. From everything from marriage to sudden death, etc., etc. It's a fun gateway to cemetery symbols. Another thing I want to mention too is I'm going to be on another show. It is this Friday, so if you're around Friday at any of those times, I put all the different time zones in there. Hopefully I didn't goof them up. I'm not even sure what this is going to be exactly. It's going to be a streaming show on YouTube, and if you want to check them out, there's a YouTube channel called Parapalooza. That's where I'll be at the time mentioned on that slide. I think we're going to talk about paranormal stuff, obviously, but we'll just see where it goes. I'm going to try and maybe I'll show my ghost photo and stuff. I've got some interesting stuff I could do, some paranormal show and tell. All right, I'm getting some ideas. I got a little time to figure something out. Someone's got a book. I don't know if they got Mitchell's book or my book in the... But anyway, someone's going to buy a book, and that is always a happy day. I am constantly buying books. It's a little bit of an addiction, which I try to, then, I can justify a lot of it as research. Yeah, Parapalooza is a cool name, isn't it? It's fun to say, too. Parapalooza. Oh, it's Nicole. Well, hey, Nicole, you are the other birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you for coming to Tombstone Tuesdays. On your birthday, you could be doing anything today, but I'm glad you're celebrating a little bit here. We do have a fun show ahead. I think it's going to be neat. Of course, every week I choose a sponsor for the show. This week's sponsor is the new undertaking establishment, Prince and Nitschke. They are dealers in furniture and carpets, but they have added to their business a complete undertaking establishment. As so many in the old days, furniture stores often branched out, and they had their coffin section. Sometimes they would even branch out further. Sometimes they would be a morgue as well. We just don't really do that too much anymore. So this is an ad I found in a newspaper from 1891. I like the part where they say, "We are in no way connected with the Undertaker's Trust. Our prices will be low accordingly." So bargain caskets to be found at the new undertaking establishment. Of course, the real supporters here for this show are my Patreon supporters. I love you guys, and you are Ian, Scott, Ghost Cat, Angel, Jessica, Anne, Envy, Jay, Ken, Patty, Sarah, Julie, Margaret, Hugh, Mikhail, Naomi, Tim, Pete, Sarah, Rachel, and the other Tui in the world. No relation to me. I love that. Some of the people on my Patreons, I do send a postcard, physical postcard every month to you, and just of my travels, usually features a unique grave or just something funky and fun. So something else to think about. Now, for this week's cemetery photo of the week, I'm actually using a couple of my own photos because I thought they tied in, we're talking about Southern funeral customs today, right? I went really, really deep south, and I thought, here's an unusual Southern custom. It's actually from South America. It's the Hora Fatal. And I saw these a couple years ago. I had I was really exciting trip. I got to go around South America. Of course, stopped at as many cemeteries as I could. And one thing I noticed, I got to see like Evita Perón's grave and things like that. But one thing I noticed is they like to put they have this thing called the Hora Fatal. So Spanish for the fatal hour. And what that is the exact hour and time that the person passed away. So you will, here's an example, and you can see on the right, they got a little clock, and it looks like the person died at 12. We don't know whether that was noon or midnight, unless I'm missing something here. And then if you look at the left, you can see where it says Hora Fatal. And then they go a little farther, and look at the bottom. It says Noviembre 7 miércoles. So this person died on November 7th, and that's a Wednesday. So they go as far to say the day of the week that they died, and it's the Hora Fatal. And here again, Hora Fatal, this person, Elvira, and it says 4 o'clock, Hora Fatal. And we had this one, they died in Agosto 24th, Sábado. So they died Saturday in August, on August 24th, and it was a Saturday of that year. I just thought that was so interesting and a little bit different. Have you guys ever seen something like the Hora Fatal? I've not seen it in America. I've only seen it in South America. So I thought that was kind of neat. Let's see here now. Now, for our book of the week, I had to choose one of the many that our guest, Mitchel Whitington, has written. He's written, over 30, so feeling like a slacker here. I better get myself in gear. This book is Funeral and Mourning Traditions of the Old South. Really great book. I loved it. And so that's really, since he has so many books, I invited him on to talk about that book in particular, but we can branch out to some other things as well. He sent me a lot of really nice photos. Now, Mitchel, I have to say, he lives in one of my favorite towns in Texas. If it's possible to have a crush on a town, I kind of have a crush on Jefferson. He lives in East Texas, Jefferson, Texas. Here's just one picture of the downtown. It's a very historic town. It's not like a town where there's just like a couple buildings here and there that are old. The whole town, like, you feel like you've stepped back in time, and there's just so much history to explore there. To me, it's like being a kid in a candy store. Oh yeah, they even have this really great candy store there, speaking of, where you can buy coffee for a nickel. And it's actually good coffee, because I'm a total coffee snob. And I guess this is one reason, too, I wanted to say I have featured Jefferson, Texas. I have chapters on it in my very first book, Unexpected Texas. I have a chapter in my travel guide to haunted places, of course. And I have it again in 6 Feet Under Texas. You run into so much history. Like, I stayed in a hotel there once, and they had their guest register out. And for one thing, look at that penmanship. But they had their guest register out under glass, so you can see it. And look who signed it. General Grant. Do you see that? Pretty nice penmanship on top of it all. But they've had presidents stay there. They've had a lot of historic figures stay there, so it's a really fascinating town. Another thing about Jefferson you might not know that makes it cool too is Bigfoot. Yes, indeed. There are a lot of Bigfoot sightings in eastern Texas. That's the part of Texas where you hear about our version, the Texas version of Sasquatch. Now, I'm from Washington State, and I was really, you always hear how everything's bigger in Texas. Fun fact, everything's better and bigger, not better, but everything's bigger in Texas, except Bigfoot. He's actually a little shorter than the ones we have up in the Pacific Northwest, which I kind of thought was amusing. All right, so getting on to our guest. Oh, let me look here. I think I'm missing some some comments. Here's me. I got to meet Mitchel over in Jefferson. They do a conference twice a year, once in April, another time in November. It's called History, Haunts, and Legends. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of speakers. I've spoken there a few times, and I'll be speaking there this fall. Really great time. If you can get there, I encourage you to go. Now, let me see. I see a few more comments here. I know that in England, some families stop the clock at the time the person passed away. All the clocks are stopped at the same time. I think we're going to be talking a little about that too. Yes. This person says, Jefferson has multiple veils of the living and those who've passed. The town feels alive and welcoming. It really does. There is such a presence there. Like I said, I just have a crush on that town. I love it. What is this? Got a duck under those pine tree limbs? I'm not sure. You guys must be having a conversation on top of. Hey, we got someone else here. Texas 60. Howdy, howdy. Thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoy the show. Now, if you do like the show, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel because there's more coming. Let me tell you a little bit about today's guest. It's Mitchel Whitington, as I've been telling you, but he is an award-winning author. He's written over 30 books. Now, the genres he concentrates on are history and the supernatural. What's not to like, right? Now, he has an upcoming book. It's called Strange Stairs and Secretive Steps that's coming out in 2021. And you guys, make sure I ask him about this before he goes today. I don't want to forget. One other thing, I mean, I could go on and on about him, but one other thing I want to make sure I tell you is that Mitchel lives in a 150-year-old home. It's known as The Grove. You might have heard of it before because some people call it the most haunted house in Texas. So he lives there with his wife, his dogs, and a few non-corporeal, shall we say, spirits living there as well. Oh, one more thing I want to say, and I'm going to cut and paste something here. Well, here's a link. This is a link to his YouTube channel. Actually, there's a better link I could share with you. If you just go to visitjefferson.com, I'll write it. It redirects to it. Okay. Oop. I have so many typos in there. And then I'm going to bring him in. So you guys make sure, don't leave yet, but make sure you check out his channel because he's only got 31 subscribers on there. He just started it and it's already super cool because, hey, he lives in Jefferson. Let me bring him in. Howdy, howdy. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
So much for coming. Now, before we go too far, I want to ask people, how do I sound? How do Mitch and I sound? Is there an echo? Really trying to get rid of that echo. I did some stuff on my end to not have one today. And how's our volume? Do you know what this means, everybody? Like, is one of us louder than the other? Just comment down there. Let me know if it's okay. And then we are just going to hop right into, oh, look at this. Perfect, no echo. I'm never touching anything on my computer again. I'm leaving the settings. Oh my goodness gracious. No echo. Okay. Sounds great. Woof. All right. Thank you, everybody. So we shall dive in. And I'm going to just start off with some of the pictures you sent because it's fun. Here, let me see if I can get us both up in here and if I could get it to show. I have to talk to myself as I said, haha, here we go. Tell us a little about these. Once again, these are some Southern funeral customs, and what's the deal with stopped clocks?
Well, if you've ever seen the movie Fried Green Tomatoes,
love that movie.
Death scene, a very emotional scene, and one of the ladies goes over and stops the clock. And when I was a kid, we toured homes. My parents loved to tour old homes, and it seemed like at every one they would say, and this clock stopped when the owner of the house died and it's never started again. And that was almost at every place. And I was like, okay, that's kind of random. That can't be happening. But it turns out that there is a tradition that when somebody would die, they would stop the clock and they would stop them at the moment that they died. And a couple of reasons for that. Number one is they didn't want any clocks running in the house because people would come to comfort the family and mourn the dead, and they didn't want there to be any kind of time constraints. They didn't want you to feel like you were there for, it's 2:00, I got to go. They wanted to let you.
Kind of like when you're at a casino, they just don't have clocks.
Exactly. Also, though, they thought that there was a little superstitious, and they didn't want the departed spirit to see the clock and get caught up in earthly time because he might not leave, But the real probable reason, if you look past all the superstitious stuff, the real reason is probably because by the time the doctor or coroner came there, it was going to be some time was going to pass. So that way they have a very accurate record of when the time of death was.
Oh, I like that. It is always so fun to see how there are traditions.
Right.
And then the reasons we hear about them are we hear all the superstitious stuff, but there's usually also really a practical reason behind the superstition. Maybe just the superstition helps us remember it better. I don't know, but I
And
do
it's
love
more fun.
to try and it is. It's more fun. I mean, oh, there's a practical reason. Come on. I liked the whole thing about it making someone stay. Now here's something I hadn't seen before. Well, what are these door vases all about?
Well, there's actually several aspects to this. They would put a little vase of flowers and they put black crepe around it, and that eventually turned into putting black crepe around the entire door. And the whole purpose of doing all these things was to let somebody know that there had been a death there, and it was more of an opportunity to give somebody the chance to be respectful, so that a traveling salesman wouldn't come knock on the door, or somebody wouldn't come just to visit or something like that. You would know immediately that there'd been a death in that house.
Once again, a practical.
Well, it is. And, of course, they still do this today. And a lot of times it's so that if people are coming to the house that don't really know you, they're from out of town, they're visitors or family, and they're coming to the house, they can easily tell which house it is that they need to go to. So, yeah, there are a lot of.
That's a really good point as well, because, yeah, you do have the out-of-town visitor, and they didn't have, Google Maps in the day, so they would need to know. All right. Well, now I have Francisca asking, what about covering up the mirror when someone passed away?
Right. That's another tradition, and they would put black crepe over it usually as a sign of mourning. But the reason behind that is they were afraid that this lingering spirit of the person who passed might see themselves in the mirror and decide that they needed to stay because here they are in their surroundings. So this way they could move on. And it was a way of doing that. But also the flip side to that is there was also a side that they didn't want people to be vain, and you didn't want to think of yourself. You wanted to think only of the departed. So you didn't need to be primping in the mirror and making yourself pretty, that kind of thing. You would completely concentrate on mourning the departed person. So that was another aspect of it.
I like that you include. That's one thing I really enjoyed about your is you really fleshed out. You didn't just say they did this, they did that, they did the other. You really do explain the reasons behind, and that makes it much more interesting to learn. Here's someone's talking about opening the windows for the soul to leave. Another one, huh? You just
right, and also along with the flowers on the door. A lot of times when it was a visitation period for the family, they would open the door and crack it. And part of the explanation was, yes, so that the soul could leave, but also so that people wouldn't have to ring the bell and disturb the mourning process.
Totally makes sense as well. Wow. All right. What is this now here? Someone's talking about ghosts. Well, they're talking about ghosts. All right. Interesting. Now, was there something about how different colored vases meant different things on the door, or am I misremembering that?
Not that I found.
Oh, okay. All right. Wasn't sure. Sometimes I hear a lot of things too, and have this little file in my head of stuff like, okay, I heard that, but I don't know. I always get more sources before I like to espouse it. So, okay. What about these? I just called them death dolls. I know that. What were they actually called?
Yeah, they funeral dolls.
Funeral dolls. That's a little better.
Things like that. They had a bunch of names for them, but they were made. They would kind of little effigies of the person who died, especially if it was a child, and they were custom made. They would have somebody come over and view the body and make sketches, and then they would go in and they would make a doll that represented the little boy or girl that died, either one. And sometimes they would actually use their hair. They would use clips of their hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and make the doll with their hair and dress them in an outfit like they might have had. And several things were done. Sometimes they were taken to the cemetery and just put on the grave so that.
Oh, really?
Yes, as long as they were there, people could look at it and see what the person looked like. And other times they were displayed by the family as a remembrance of the person or child who died.
So did they do these? For some reason, I assumed that they only did them for children. Did they make funeral dolls for adults as well?
In a small scale, certainly not to scale. And that was the case with the kids too. They were mostly smaller versions of everything, but they did make adults as well. And the way they would cut the hair, they would take it from the very back because your head's going to be laying on the pillow, so they could take your hair from back there, but you'd still look exactly the same.
Oh, Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about the practical aspect of that. Oh, we have another question here. Just a second. Some houses have two front doors. What is the meaning of that in relation to someone that passed away?
Don't know. I didn't uncover anything about that.
Yeah,
I'll make a
interesting.
note because I'm always looking for new information. We might have a book two.
I know, isn't that neat? I always love that too.
All right.
There's always more to learn and explore. Okay, well,
Right.
we'll see if we can find out more. Ah, okay. Now, I am curious, and you brought something for show and tell that pertains to this next thing as well. The funeral lithographs.
Right.
That is just beautiful.
Yeah, it became really popular. If you'll notice, and the one that you're showing there, it's very, very typical. There's a monument, of the person, and it has cutouts, and they would put their name in there, and they would put information about them, possibly their profession, or when they died, when they were born, anything about that person. And they would frame these and hang them in the house.
Mm.
And sometimes they were customized. If the person was in the military, you might have one that showed a headstone that had more of a military slant to it.
Yeah,
Almost
maybe an eagle
always,
or some cannon
yeah,
or something. Yeah.
almost always it had an angel in it, though. So
Oh,
yeah, and
those are really cool. I would love one of those to hang on the wall. I will keep I go to a lot of antique stores. I have never, it would be a cool find to find one of these that's been all filled out.
right, yeah, and they had people that would just it is. I guess morbid as it sounds, had watched the paper, and every time they saw a death announcement, they'd go to the house and they'd have a catalog of, oh, look what we can do for you. But
Ooh, talk about a cold call. Gosh.
it was a remembrance, and so the family
Yeah,
would want to have that to hang in the house.
I can
And
see that. Yeah.
turns out we found one at the Grove when we bought the house.
Oh yeah, tell the story. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
were
I'm gonna put you on so you can show. Here we go.
okay. Yeah, I've got show and tell here,
Show and
but
tell. Love it.
we were we were first starting to go through the house, and there was one closet in the house, and it was old, and it was had all kind of stuff in it, old hats and things. But when we got to the very bottom of the stack of things, we found this. If I can do it without.
It's confusing in StreamYard and you get a lot of glare. I know. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, that's the front door of the Grove, by the way. But yeah, you can see the angel, which was very typical
Wow.
at the Tombstone. And this was not filled out. They bought it,
Uh-huh.
but they had not put the information in.
Oh, that is cool.
Based on what we believe to be the age of it,
Hmm.
we think it probably had to be from the Young family that owned the house from 1885 to 1983. They had somebody living here for almost 100 years. So
Oh
we think
boy.
it probably belonged to them. We don't know why they never bothered to fill it out. But
Yeah. Well,
uh,
we're gonna dig into the Grove later for sure, and I'm sure people will have questions. Let's see here. Someone says the Doll Museum in Sulphur Springs has some of those funeral dolls. Which state is that? Sulphur Springs.
Texas.
Grant. Oh, that is okay. Because Granbury has a wonderful doll museum as well, and they have like 2,500 dolls there. It's haunted. I've been on a paranormal investigation there as well, but I bet they have some. Next time I visit, I'm going to ask for some of to see their funeral dolls. That's really cool. Yeah. All right. Well, that is really neat. I love it when people bring something for show and tell. I've been asking guests now, bring something for show and tell. I love this. I kind of want to steal this graphic and use it for something. This is like, it says Memento Mori up there. You got these great skeletons and everything, and it's like funeral. Tell us about these.
Yeah, the wording on this is too is you're basically you're invited to accompany the corpse of Mr. Samuel.
Yeah, I love that. I know that phrasing. Accompany his corpse. I mean, what a ticket, man! That is so cool.
Right. They actually sent these out back in the day. You were invited to come to the funeral, and if you weren't invited, well, it wasn't really proper for you just to show up. And
Wow.
they did that for a number of reasons to control the number of people they had there. If it was going to be somebody that was really popular, they only had X number of seats in the church. On the other hand, they may want to make sure that only the best people that, they
Oh.
would come to the status, you still are
Oh,
after
sure.
status with, even though you had a death in the family.
Hmm.
But they had somebody hand deliver these. And if you received one, it was really, really considered to be a bad thing if you didn't honor them by going.
Oh,
And you see at the very bottom of the graphic, it says, and bring this ticket with you.
yeah.
Couldn't go in without a ticket. Interestingly enough, these weren't always used. And to let people know that everybody was welcome, sometimes you'll see an obituary in the paper, and it'll say, funeral pending this date, this time, no more notifications, which meant they weren't sending out funeral tickets.
Oh, all right. Boy, this is a tradition that maybe should have been revived down in New Zealand. They were having a problem with this guy they nicknamed the Grim Eater. He would just he would show up unannounced, and like he would even talk about gall he would bring a little backpack with empty Tupperware and like scoop food into it, and everyone's the funeral directors are like kind of recognizing this guy, and they nicknamed him the Grim Eater, and they found out it wasn't illegal what he was doing, but they just had he was given a stern talking to.
That gives me an idea too. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a movie. You remember the movie Wedding Crashers?
Oh yeah.
Let's make one, Funeral Crashers.
Oh yeah. Let's do it. Totally.
Get the food, right?
We could start with a Grim Eater.
In today's world, you could just walk into any service if you wanted to, and then if they have the big lunch afterwards, just drift right on over. So.
Oh, for sure. Probably some people are a little more subtle than this guy was. I mean, bring in Tupperware, that's a bit much. Now, here's speaking of food. I like this, funeral biscuits. What are these all about?
These are basically just little mementos, and they would put a cookie or a cracker in it that often would have a design on it, sometimes a cross, sometimes a person's initial, and then it would have a wrapper that had information about the person on it. Occasionally they would have a boy standing there with a cup of wine or juice or something, and have a girl that was handing out the funeral crackers. So you were kind of doing a sort of kind of communion, but not religious. It's just a tribute to the person. And
would they eat them at the funeral?
Yes,
or what?
well, as you were leaving,
Okay.
There was nothing ritualistic about these. It was just a chance to have a little memento about it. And you keep the wrapper, of course, that had personal information on it.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. In the book, I've actually found a recipe for funeral biscuits. I put it in the book. You can actually make your own.
I should make some. That's a good thing. Yeah, that's right. Well, okay. So I'm gonna have to make some funeral biscuits. Maybe I'll eat them on the show sometime.
Well, and if you do, you can get these little molds online that have little crosses and things like that. It would be a typical kind of thing that they would use. So use that, make them, and put an outside wrapper, and you're going to have some very authentic funeral biscuits.
Maybe next time I attend the afternoon tea league, which is the tea group I'm in now. Maybe we had a Zoom tea party. Maybe I'll have some funeral biscuits there. That would be neat. All right. Yeah, this next topic that we're going to get into, I've read a little bit about it before, but it's just fascinating to me. And maybe some people here are familiar, but maybe some people have not heard of sin eaters. I didn't realize they were a thing in the South. I thought that they had only happened like hundreds of years ago. But I got to say, I actually know someone now on Facebook who is friends with a contemporary sin eater who had a very slow year last year due to COVID. And I'm like, what? So tell me about sin eating.
So it's really not prevalent through the South, but it's more in the Appalachian area. And the people who are very, very superstitious. And what it basically is you would actually put some crackers and a glass of wine or some type of food and beverage on top of the chest of the person who died, and somebody would come over and they would eat the food, symbolically taking on the sins of that person. So it goes from that all the way to on top of the coffin where you have more room and putting a full meal, and this person would go. It was somebody that was usually not really popular. He was kind of an outcast because
I was wondering.
Yeah, because he's taking on the sins of all these people. And I first heard about this, I think there was a Twilight Zone episode or something, and I have a picture from it in the book. And I just couldn't be real. But it actually is. It actually happens. It's very superstitious.
It is one of those things. I think this because we both do a lot of research, and sometimes you hear this idea and you're like, oh, that's so good. It's probably not true, though, And then you look into it, and, oh yeah, everybody's just been making this up for years. But then like something like this comes along, and you're like, holy moly, it is weird and true.
Truth is always stranger than fiction, I tell you.
I love it.
Yeah, but the thinking is that when this person acquired the sins of the person who passed on, they could enter sinless into heaven.
Oh,
That was the idea.
wow. So I guess it's if you got a lot to atone for, or you just got a lot of big appetite too.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the real thing is if the sin eater dies,
Yeah. What
you
happens
take
to
the
the
sins
scene?
of all these people.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to take on a whole lot when they, do that for
Yeah,
him.
that's true. Who's going to eat the sin eater's food? There's like a short story in there too.
Gotta
when
be.
we,
Well,
when we make our movie, we got to have a sin eater in there as well, and we got to see what happens. Maybe after maybe something good happens to him, and everyone's confused, like he just won the lottery, And then I don't know. Well, we can figure the story out later, I guess. Now, I just want to remind everybody that if you're on YouTube, make sure you can just go to visitjefferson.com and that will redirect you, which is so clever, to Mitchell's YouTube site. And he's got 2 videos up there now. He lives in Jefferson. He's a historian. It's cool already. You need to subscribe. That's going to be so interesting. I can hardly wait. I saw that you had that, and I was like, oh, the show is going to be starting soon. So I haven't watched the videos yet, but tell us a little about your YouTube channel, the plans you got there.
Well, Jefferson is such a cool place because it has things that appeal to different people. We have everything from a wonderful Mardi Gras celebration to in the fall, we have a Bigfoot conference. We also have a biker rally,
Oh, yeah.
it seems like there's something for everybody. And I thought, if you come during Mardi Gras, you may not know about these other things. If you come for the antiques, you may not know that Jefferson is the Bigfoot capital of Texas. Yeah. So I set out to make a series of short videos, under 10 minutes each one. So it's not a big time commitment, but to kind of showcase different things about the town. And the first 2 I did, one was on it being the Bigfoot capital of Texas. The other is an unbelievable model railroad that we have. It's a museum, and it is just fantastic. I volunteer operate there on Mondays.
Oh, cool.
I love it so much. My wife keeps telling me, you leave that up there. Don't bring any of that up. She doesn't want to walk in and see a little town being built.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had a train set growing up. I love model trains.
You're not going to believe this. But anyway, those are the first 2. I'm going to do one coming up on Diamond Bessie, the legend of Diamond Bessie. Of course, I'm going to do one on the Grove and the stories there. Also, some of the hauntings at the other places like the Con Saloon Hotel and some of the tours you can take. It's just a chance to preview all the different things you can do in town. So I'm really excited about it. But we're just getting started. You look at it now, you got only 2 videos, but hit subscribe and you'll get a little email saying, oh, there's a new video up. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. That'll be fun. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, you mentioned the Grove. It's come up a couple times in conversation. We do have to talk about the Grove, your home. Tell us about the Grove and what that is all about.
So the Grove was built in 1861. So yeah, it's over 150 years old, and it's really an interesting place. Tammy and I fell in love with it. We knew about Jefferson. We grew up not far from here in a little town. We used to play Jefferson in football. We just didn't know about Jefferson. And somebody we were living in the Dallas area at the time, and somebody said, y'all need to go to Jefferson. We're like, no, we played them in football. We know all about them. And they said, oh, no. We went and fell in love with this little town. But there was this house for sale. It used to be a restaurant in the 90s, and we went there and saw it was for sale, and something about it just spoke to us. We spent a full year trying to talk ourselves out of buying it, but we couldn't.
Now, did you know it was haunted at this point? I mean, did anybody say anything about it?
So it did have a lot of talk. It was.
It had some rumors.
Yeah, the internet was just now starting to come out. So there was a lot of talk about it online. And when we talked to people around Jefferson, they would say, "Oh yeah, the Grove, man, that's a scary
it was already known as the Grove, like it had been called the Grove."
It's the official name of the house on the historic record is the Stilley Young House. It was built by the Stilley family, and the Youngs lived there the longest. But we think the name the Grove came quite naturally because it's in the grove of native Texas pecan trees, and
it's very nice.
Those trees go back to when the house was built. So we think people probably said, "Where did Stilley build his house?" Oh, he built it in that grove of pecan trees. Where Stilley lived at the Grove. So. Yeah, when we bought it, it had always been called the Grove, and we're very traditional. We kept that name. But we looked at it and just fell in love with it. And like I said, tried to talk ourselves out of it for a year and couldn't. We did hear during one of the times we looked at the house, the former owner was telling us some of the stories. And one of my writing areas was about haunted places. I have a cool
Yeah.
I get to travel around the country and visit haunted places and write about them. But
Hmm.
I thought, okay, if it's got ghost stories, bonus, no problem.
Hmm.
Uh, right away. And it's been an interesting, we're going on 20 years now of living there.
Wow.
We just
Now
passed.
I got to ask you because I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, but my husband, he's like kind of like Spock. He's just very nothing, a ghost would have to walk up and set a flare off in front of him. Although I have taken a couple photos that he thinks are interesting, but my point is I meet a lot of people where one person is open-minded to it and the other person is just like, there's no such thing as ghosts. I just wonder if you and your wife did one of you take more convincing, or had you had paranormal experiences before you came to the Grove? That's a lot to ask, but I'm curious about it all.
That poor woman. We've been married for a long time. We got married, when we were both kind of going into college. So she spent a lifetime with me, and she has gotten dragged to haunted places all around the country.
Oh, why?
As part of my job. And
Hmm.
if you didn't believe in the supernatural, after spending all these years doing that, you would. I mean,
Hmm.
so yes, by the time we bought the Grove, we both had any number of experience, and we're both very open to it. The thing I have to say, the idea of a place being haunted, we think about, the movies like Poltergeist and Amityville Horror and all like that. And of all the places I visit and write about, no place is like that. Things happen, but they're interesting. You don't really have people running out into the night scared.
Yeah, it's not like a Steven Spielberg movie. Now, someone's asking, you know what? Actually, Mr. Mitchell, have you heard of the haunted cemetery with the glowing tombstone it's a Veal Station, actually. I live not that far from there, and go to my website. I have an article about it.
It's just the one near
Springtown.
okay, no, that's not the one I'm thinking of.
Mm.
I wrote about in the Ghost of East Texas book I did.
Yeah, I've got that book.
Okay, and I'm trying to think of the name of the town. It's just west.
Over there, the book. Well,
It's east of Tyler, southwest of. The name escapes me. Boy, I hate getting old. But yeah.
well, you've written so many books. It can be hard, some like when I'm on a show and I don't know which books they're going to talk about, and like I only have 11 books, and still they'll go into a book that I'm like, when you're deep in research on one thing, you're not remembering it all. So there is a glowing tombstone in East Texas, huh?
No, I had heard this local legend that one of the tombstones in this particular cemetery glowed, and at night, and it was because the person who was buried there had been exposed to radioactive waste. And
are you thinking of Silkwood?
So I go to the cemetery and I track it down, and I look at the name of it, and it's Karen Silkwood.
Karen Silkwood, yes.
It doesn't glow. It doesn't.
No, I heard that as well. And it doesn't. And boy, I actually wrote about her in my book 6 Feet Under Texas. That is just such a tragic tale. I mean, wow, her whistleblower. Everyone should know about that.
But that was one of those urban legends of
exactly.
She worked at a nuclear power plant. Oh, I bet she glows. I bet her tombstone glows. I bet,
Well, yeah. So Texas 60. Go to my website tuisnider.com, or go to Google, go Tui Snider and Veal Station, and something will come up, and you'll hear. I've dragged my husband there a couple times, and you'll hear a little something, something. Now, someone's asking. First of all, let's see. Well, here Ken wants to know, where can a guy in a wheelchair stay in Jefferson? Do you know?
So there are places that are wheelchair accessible. If you're looking for just a regular, modern day motel, we have several of those. The Executive Inn out on Highway 59, and the Oyo Motel, which I thought was a terrible name for a motel, but it's a chain that stands for On Your Own for travelers.
Oh, okay.
They have ground floor rooms. They have handicapped showers and everything like that. So there are places, and several of the places downtown, the old Con Saloon downtown has first floor rooms also.
Oh, good.
And that has a lot of ghost stories with it. I recently, I guess a year ago, wrote a book on the history and haunts of the Con Hotel Saloon.
I'll have to read that one. I'd heard, but I don't know the particular ones. Yeah, and I have to say that some people call Jefferson the B&B capital, bed and breakfast capital of. So it's really worth maybe digging around and seeing if you can find a bed and breakfast, because there's great old homes. The Grove obviously is occupied right now, but there are ones that are actual B&Bs. Someone here is asking about shadow people. If you've seen
Yeah.
any, I guess.
So we do have some shadow activity here at the Grove. And the guy that we bought the house from, the guy that owned the house before us, he called them corner people. He said, you'll see these shadows in the corner of your eye. And there's 2 areas of the house where occasionally you do. And one of the things I tell people on our tour, we're a tour home. And I tell people the strangest thing about living at the Grove, the weirdest thing about living here, is that all the ghost stories about the place become part of your everyday life. You just accept them and get used to them, and they're part of your life. But we were cooking dinner one day. We're in the kitchen, and I'm standing on one side of the aisle, and I'm chopping up vegetables, and Tammy's on the other side. She's slicing up chicken breast. She was, we're going to do a stir fry for dinner, and the door was open all the way up to the game room, so you could see from the back of the house all the way up to the front. And some movement caught my eye. I looked up in time to see this shadow figure go from the game room into the stairwell. And before I could say anything about it, my wife said, did you see those 2 things just go across that room? And I said, no, there was only one. And she said, no, there was 2. And what we determined, she had looked up a split second before me. She saw both of them. I looked at the time.
Oh, wow.
And
then you just kept cooking, right?
Kind of cool. Huh. We're right back. But yeah, we do have some shadow activity here. Shadow activity in our house doesn't seem to be negative or bad, but a lot of times, and I've done a lot of research on shadow people, and I've kind of flirted with writing a book on that topic.
Yeah.
I've done a ton of research and interviewed a lot of people and taken a lot of polls over the years at conferences and in the Grove Zine back in the day, and about the experience of people have had with them. But a lot of times you see them at places that like are old jails and things like that, places that have a lot of sanitariums and things like that. At the Grove, we don't have any negative activity like that. Although we do see them, they don't seem to be attached to anything negative or bad.
Well, yeah, so that's really great. I mean, so it's a peaceful coexistence you've got going. I've taken a tour of the Grove. It's really cool, and I enjoy you're a good storyteller in person as well as on the pages, which are 2 different skill sets not everybody has.
I'm passionate about my subject matter, though.
It's fun. It is really fun. So people, if you get it, when you go to Jefferson, make sure you book a tour at the Grove. And Debbie, who lives up in Canada, is curious who haunts the Grove. Like, who are your regulars?
So I could give you one example. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen that we have no direct tie to. We have a mischievous guy in our den who loves playing tricks and pranks on people, and he turns lights off. He does all kinds of. We have no idea who that is, but one particular spirit that has gone back at least 3 or 4 owners we have documented sightings of is a lady in a white dress that walks through our house, but she takes a particular path. She walks down the east side of the house, steps up through a wall of the house, and then walks across the width of the house. And it's kind of a residual haunting. She always takes that exact same path. But when I started doing research on the house after we bought it, I learned that there was an addition made to the house in 1870, 9 years after the house was built. So what she's doing is not probably stepping up through a wall. It's more likely she's stepping up onto a back porch that was there prior to that addition being made, coming through a back wall and walking across to what would have been the children's bedroom. And if that's the case, it has to be the original lady of the house, Minerva Stilley. She and Frank made that addition, and she is the only woman that would remember the house in that original configuration. They had 2 sons, no daughters. It's almost got to be her. So, her, we can kind of speculate. Others, we don't know. We just enjoy the activity.
Well, Nicole says a book would be interesting. I think she's talking about your shadow people. And then she asks, write a book. Have you ever thought you're writing a movie? Have you ever been touched by a spirit?
A lot of people have experiences on the tour. It doesn't happen every week. We have, I tell people it's a right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah, they're not trained circus animals. You're not sitting there putting out little kibble for them and then they come and get the ghost kibble. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. But things do still happen on the tour. And one of the things that happens a lot is having your hair pulled. And we've had that happen. And it's like somebody's reaching up and messing with you and you turn around. And a lot of times I'll think that, like, what's Tammy doing? And I'll look, and
Yeah.
she's not even in the room. So
Oh,
little
wow.
things like that, little touching and poking or tapping your shoulder, things like that. Definitely. Probably the most embarrassing thing that happened in the house. Uh, we were on this citywide tour of homes, and they
Uh-huh.
do it every Christmas, and we were on that. And a lady told us that she was standing in our den and she was listening to the docent tell the history of that part of the house. And all of a sudden, something popped her on the bottom. And she thought, one of these strangers in the room with me has touched my bottom. She goes, boy, I was going to
Yeah.
slap somebody silly. She said, but nobody was anywhere near me.
Ah.
I am sorry. Oh, I was just horrified. So, as soon as we could be alone, I was yelling at the ghost. I was like, do
Yeah.
not do that. You must respect the ladies. So,
No kidding. Now the Grove, you've actually been featured on some TV shows, haven't you?
yes,
Or
yes.
do you mind telling us a little about those?
Oh, no, we've been on any number. Some because of the history. For
Mhm.
example, HGTV's If Walls Could Talk. They came
Oh,
back,
nice.
and since they did the history aspect of it then, they came back later and did one for their show, Home Strange Home, about the
Oh.
haunted aspect of it.
Mhm.
Um, we've also been on My Ghost Story, uh, Penn and Teller's BS.
Oh,
Uh,
I love
uh,
Penn and Teller, but they don't quite go. They seem to be very skeptical.
they are very skeptical, but we did have something happen while they were filming
Ah.
perhaps here. We've been on William Shatner's Weird or What,
Oh, really?
which was kind of disappointing because we were all excited. Oh boy, we're going to be on William Shatner's Weird or What, and they show up to do the filming. We're like, where's Captain Kirk? Where's
Yeah.
Bill? And they go, no, he doesn't. We do
He
all the
doesn't.
filming, and he sits in a studio for 2 days and does all the talking. And I was like, oh man,
Oh man, what a bummer.
he did
Well,
say
did
my
you?
name. When he was doing the
That's nice.
overlay for the house, the narration, he said, and this is the owner, Mitchell Whitington. I'm like, Captain Kirk said my name.
Yeah, that's neat. Hey, maybe you can do I don't know the legality of airing other, but maybe on your channel sometime you could do a little clips from some of your different appearances. That would be fun to see. I was going to say, did you get to meet Penn and Teller?
No, I did not. Same thing. Uh,
Yeah, they're pretty insulated, I guess, when they're that famous, huh?
Penn also said my name. So I've got this
Oh,
collection going of famous people who have not met me, but who have said my name on TV.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think I have that distinction at all. How fun is that?
What we had
Wow.
happen with Penn and Teller was they showed up and they were actually using our house as a backdrop. They had 3 paranormal investigators. And to be honest, they didn't tell us it was Penn and Teller's show. They told us it was a paranormal show.
Oh, okay.
We said, okay. And they had these 3 paranormal investigators, and they had them at different places around Jefferson, the Jefferson Hotel, and
Hmm.
a couple of different places. And they were being brutally unfair to them, I think, in the end. But when they got to the Grove, and these are 3 professional people, the first thing they do is tear out their batteries, put in fresh batteries, like any paranormal investigator worth their site. You get,
Sure.
to a new site, the first thing you do is put in new batteries.
Yeah.
They did that. And so they had one of them that had a camera and one of them that had a EMF meter. And they were walking up our staircase, and there was a camera behind them filming. And they had been here only for about 30 minutes.
Hmm.
At the same time, the EMF meter pegs, the camera goes to static, and they both die simultaneously. So on the show, when that happens,
Hmm.
you see them go, oh yeah, they're going to say it's ghost. And then they go to this scientist guy who goes, yeah, every time something happens, they want to blame aliens or ghosts. And I was like, okay, but 2 different
Yeah.
items with both of them with brand new batteries, and they both act up and die simultaneously. Yeah, I have a hard time thinking, but they wrote it off. But to me, it was a really
Yeah, it was
interesting experience. Yeah.
anomalous for sure. And someone here says they met Bill Shatner and they're going to hang with him in June. Well, aren't you lucky? And then Nicole's mentioning that, yeah, he just turned 90. Isn't that neat? Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I was shocked. I was like, Bill's 90? Wow, he's looking good. So that's exciting.
Well, that would make me kind of old too, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, we won't go there. We're we're like a fine wine. We just
Yeah,
keep getting
there you go.
bitter.
There you go.
Now, I have a note. I even wrote a note to myself because I knew I was going to get caught up in talking about stuff. Of course, people, feel free to ask questions as we're going along here. I know it's kind of getting close to the top of the hour, and I want to make sure we hear about Mitch's new book that's coming out in 2021 called Strange Stairs and Secretive Steps. What is that all about? How did you decide to write this book? What's the topic, and when can we get it? When and where?
I never set out to write this book.
I love that.
I was just out exploring one day, and I
Books
came
happen.
across, yeah, they really do. I came across a set of stairs, and they were old, ancient. I mean, and they were brick and mortar, but you could tell at one time they had gone somewhere, maybe to a structure that had burned or was no longer there. And I couldn't help but stop and think about them and go, they have a story. There's a story behind those, but I don't have any idea. It's lost to time. So
Yeah.
when I got home, I was doing a web search, a Google search of stairs in the woods, and you can easily do that and get all these. And
Stairs in the woods. That
Yeah.
sounds like a fun one. Okay, I'm Googling that later.
But it turns out there's a whole series of stories about these. I mean, most of them fiction, about people finding this random staircase in the woods, climbing it, nothing's there, comes down, and 5 years have passed. And these are all fictional stories, but the thing is that the stairs that I found, did have a story. So I started doing research about places around the country, staircases that had interesting things attached to them. Some were ghost stories. Some were just wildly horrific things that were kind of painful to write about. But they were all really strange staircases, and they all tied together. And I didn't want to write the book. I didn't set out to write the book. And it was like taking a drink out of a fire hose. I mean, it was just coming out at me. And I wrote the whole book in about a month. So anyway,
That's great.
It's in the works now. I mean, it's done. I've done with my part. I've handed it off. So hopefully by the time the History Haunts and Legends comes up next month, which is where I'll see you, Tui, next.
In
be there?
April.
Okay,
I won't be there till the November one. I was hoping to come. It had canceled. That's April 17th, though, as I think. I could be wrong, guys, but if you guys can make it to History Haunts and Legends, it's really fun.
I'm hoping
they do talks during the day, like paranormal talks, and then they have paranormal teams, and you can get a nighttime ticket too and go on paranormal research. And of course, while you're there, you're going to want to visit the Grove. Anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, anyway, I'm really hoping that the book will be out by then.
Oh, yeah. Well, but you could do something where you maybe people pre-purchase it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something. I don't know. That's too complicated. I hope it's out. I hope it's out.
That's just what I'm hoping is going to be my timeline. So
yeah. What are you going to be talking about at this History Haunts and Legends?
Oddly enough, my topic is going to be strange stairs and secretive steps.
Oh, shocker. Where have I heard that before? Well, good. Okay, so it's going to tie right in.
It's going to tie in, and I really believe I'll have the book there too. So it's going to be the debut of the book. But after that, it'll be available online and in some stores where it is a nice fit. Bookstores don't exist anymore. If you see a bookstore, you're looking at a unicorn,
Yeah.
I
remember when I heard you give a talk about the Philip experiment at History Haunts and Legends, which I find really fascinating. Now, I know you've written so many books, and did you write a book about that as well?
I did not. I've done. I've got a ton of research, and I've got a lot of information, but I've never put it together in a book. That's kind of one of those things on the horizon because it fascinates me, and that's another whole show. So,
yeah, we could do just do a Reader's Digest condensed version real quick for people who don't know about it.
There was a group that decided to create a spirit named Philip, and they ended up writing his whole backstory.
And it wasn't even true. That's
it wasn't true.
Part of it that I love. They made a big fakey backstory. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they wrote his whole story, but then they started getting together and trying to communicate with Philip, and the spirit started coming through.
And they were doing this under very stringent, they were, scientific, these were parapsychologists at a university. They weren't just like, yay, yabba dabba, whoever. No. They were really trying to apply the scientific method to this. That's one reason it's so fascinating. And you did tons of research on this, and they started having results, and some of it's quite well documented on TV and everything. I mean, I think they should do some more of these. Do you know, as far as you know, are there more things like this, like the Philip experiment happening?
Interesting. They did make a movie based on it, and they didn't call it the Philip experiment, but they made a movie where they got a group of college kids together. Of course, it's a
it always has to be.
And they tried to
that is the
manifest this. So I know that they did that, and as far as actively people trying to do that again, I don't know.
I heard of one down in Australia, but I don't think it was anywhere near as good as the
Well,
Philip one itself.
and it's a time commitment because the Philip experiment, the group was together and did this for quite a long time,
Yeah, it
so
took some dedication. It wasn't like they just were at a slumber party and they whipped out a Ouija board and
right.
went, "Woo!" No,
Yeah,
no. This, like I said, that's part of what makes it so great. Yeah,
right.
maybe we could have you on to talk about that sometime because I think that would be a really fun topic.
Sure.
Maybe on my other show. Oops, I just broke my pen. Okay. Now, Nicole wants to know, did you believe in spirits before the Grove?
Absolutely. I've had a lifelong interest in the supernatural.
Hmm.
I can't explain it. The first kind of spark of that I remember was when I was in first grade, and back in the day, and I was in Ms. Reed's class, and she gave us these little outlines of a chair, these little pencil drawings of a chair, or a line drawing of a chair, I should say. And when she told them to color them our favorite color, and I didn't know she was going to put them up for Parent Teacher Day, so I colored mine black. And mother said, "Why don't you color yours black?" She was expecting blue like the sky or green like a tree. And I said, "That's the color of haunted houses."
Oh,
And I
wow.
remember in my mind's eye seeing a house in silhouette. And all I knew about it was that ghosts lived there. No idea where I got that. No idea where it came from.
Hmm.
That's the first thing I remember. But as I grew up, I was always reading about true haunts. And then, of course, when I got old enough, I started traveling and visiting haunted places and started having experiences. So, yeah, by the time we bought the Grove, it was, they said, "Oh, we have ghost stories." I'm like, bonus. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. I know. Do you have a favorite type of paranormal evidence? Like for me, I love a good EVP. When it's nice and clean, it's not just garbled. When it really is just a voice that wasn't there, that really just gets me every time.
Yeah. The thing that I enjoy more than anything is the sensory experiences. Uh, I'm interested in some of the photographs people have taken around our house.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh, wow,
you know,
that's a good question too.
yeah, they've got EVP at our house, and it's interesting to me as well. But the sensory things really, to me, are interesting. The emotional ones, like for example, we were in our game room during a tour, and I'm sitting there talking, and a lady on the other side of the room kind of caught herself, and she walked out of the room. And I thought, I wonder what's wrong with her. And as if it came from the same direction, it was just like this wave of emotion came over me,
Oh, I
and
have
it
been places where that's happened to
it was
people.
all
It's
I could do to
hmm
keep from bursting out in tears. And I was just concentrating on holding it together, holding it together. But I don't know what it was and what caused it or
hmm
anything. It was clearly she had felt the same thing I did. It just came through her before it did me.
just emotion. Wow. Yeah, that is neat. Now Nicole's asking too, would you ever live in a house that had a horrible murder? I guess
Probably would. Uh,
I was guessing yes. I should have made people I should have said, let's take a guess. I'm guessing you would.
well, and you can stay at the Lizzie Borden house. It's a B&B.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow.
And you can rent the room where one of the two parents was killed. It's the most expensive room, of course. Yeah. But if you stay at our Con Saloon Hotel, which is what I talked about earlier, that has a history of being, in the Riverport days of Jefferson. There have been a couple of
Hmm.
hangings there. There have been some suicides there. So,
Yeah.
you're definitely staying in the house where, our house, I should say, our hotel,
Hmm.
where there have been horrific things happen. But yet it's a peaceful place. But things do happen there. They're just not scary. It's not the Amityville horror kind of thing.
No, no, no. It seems very like companionable.
Yes.
Now, this person's asking Mitchell, how old do you think a person would normally be to see or feel spirits or shadow people? Do you have an opinion on this?
I think that probably children are more open than adults to
Yes.
having these experiences. I mean, if you think about it, if you're a kid and you're seeing something like that, you're like, "Who's the man in the corner?" And your parents are like, "There's no man in the corner.
Yeah.
There's nobody there." And at some point, you're like, "Oh, okay." You keep getting told this isn't real. It's not real. It's not real. And finally,
And it
you
just
accept the fact it's not
fades.
real. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, but they are so open to it. I actually think the same thing about dogs and cats. Our
Hmm.
dogs. We have dogs here at the house, and we always have. I tell people my life will be measured in basset hounds. We have two rescues right now, but
Aw.
uh, we've had experiences through the years with our dogs picking up. So I think animals, small children are more open than we are.
Oh,
I
I
have
think so.
so many friends that go, I don't believe in that. Well, why? Because it's not real. I was like, well, that can't be your base premise. You can't if you go into it right,
There's skepticism and then there's closed-mindedness,
yes,
and I think of those are two things, but sometimes people think they're the
exactly.
same thing, and they're not.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think there's an age limit where it starts. I think
Hmm.
that, in fact, it's probably the fact that they're more open to it at that age.
Yeah, they can explain it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, now we have kept you over an hour. So if anyone has, if you have a question, you better squeeze it in real quick. I'm going to tell you what's coming up next. I mean, and I really hope that we can get Mitchell on here again. There's so many more things we could talk about.
My pleasure.
Um, now, we do have, like Colorado Martini. Denise is coming next week, so make sure you tune in for that. I have an April Fool show happening at night with me and Greg Bishop. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're currently having a great time. I'm keeping him overtime. It's kind of like, stop the clock, everybody. We won't let him know how long he's been here. And once again, if you if you enjoyed the show, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, because otherwise, why are you here? And now I think I see another question here. Oh, here. What about now? Does this happen at the Grove? What about certain scents like perfume or cigars?
Definitely, we've had the scent of perfume in the house,
Hmm.
uh, but there's one room that has not cigars but pipe tobacco, and we
I
don't
remember
smoke.
that from the tour.
Yeah, we don't smoke or allow smoking in the house, and it happens every so often. You walk into the room, it smells like somebody smoked a pipe in the room, and
Yeah.
it happened on the tour one day, and we walked in, and I thought, I'm not going to mention this. It might seem like we set it up or burned
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So I just wasn't going to mention it. So I just kept talking. And this lady stopped me and said, excuse me, who smokes Prince Albert? And I said,
Oh,
what do you mean? She said, that smell, that's Prince Albert pipe tobacco. My daddy smoked it his entire life. I could pick it out anywhere. And I thought,
uh-huh.
I don't know who it is, but now I know what he smokes. So that week I went out and bought a tin of Prince Albert pipe tobacco. And I walked through the house with it going, I'm going to put this back in the kitchen. It's going to be right back there. If anybody wants it, help
Oh,
yourself.
that's neat. That's really neat. I like that. That was very nice. And did you get a good whiff of it too? So now you know?
Well, and periodically I open the lid to see if the
Mhm.
level of tobacco is going down.
Oh, yeah.
It's not. So he's got his own secret stash somewhere.
I guess. I don't know how that all works. Maybe on the etheric level. I know there's a thing like with fairy food. You could leave food out for the fairies, and then I think you're supposed to throw it away. Like they get there's a name for it, the fairy essence out of it, but the cookies and stuff stays there. I don't know. I should look that up more. Maybe it's sort of like that. Oh, well, okay. One last question, I guess. People already. Connie was saying, yes, have you back? And then she asks, have you ever seen a full body ghost? I guess like a full.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Along with the lady in white.
Hmm.
And the way that typically I see her is I'll be in a room and I'll look, and through the next room I'll catch some movement and I'll look and you'll see a lady go by. And it's so real that, my first thought is usually, God, somebody's in the house.
Yeah.
But we also have a guy in the garden in a black suit, same
Oh,
thing.
really?
And he looks as real as you or me. He's wearing a
Wow.
top hat. And to see somebody in a old-fashioned suit and top hat in Jefferson is not that weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Everybody has costumes for different festivals and things like that.
Hmm.
But the first time I saw him, I thought, who's in our yard? I went out there and there's nobody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually I have.
Wow. That would be neat. I would like to see that. Oh, I've got a question here. Tui, this one's for you. Do you remember the family called the Sandlins out in Springfield? No, I don't. Sandlins? No. Should I? I'm new. I live in Azle anyway, not that far away. But no, I will have to tell me about the Sandlins, or I will have to look them up next time I'm at Veal Station. Very pretty. Okay, everybody. I see people are saying great conversation, great show. People want you back. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mitchell. This was really fun. And thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, everyone who's watching now. And thank you, everybody who's watching the replay, because you guys are awesome, too. And if you're watching the replay, leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. It's so fun to me to see, because we get people from all over the world, not just Texas. People are wishing us a lovely week. You have a lovely week as well. And catch me on Friday on the Parapalooza. We're all looking forward to Mitch's book when it comes out, which will be soon. So take care, everyone. Thank you, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Tui.
Thank you.